You know I've been teasing you all this time about the impending Tory civil war, but it is coming. It is literally about to happen. This time next week, we could see it blossoming and blooming like we've never seen it before. And during this campaign, we have seen a couple of minor skirmishes. But during those videos, I've said some things, and I think it really should sort of be clear that there will be someone who comes out and tells the truth. And that truth tell will be, you went too far right. You got obsessed with this ideology. You went down all these things. The problems were all here. This is why the problems. Look at where the British public are. What do they want? Why aren't we addressing the concerns? Why did we spend all these years wasting all this time and opportunity instead of going down this really ever further, more right path, or going when something policy-wise fails, we don't go, well, maybe it's not the policy that's wrong or something like that. No, it must be the civil service, or it must be, we've got to double down on this ideology even more. These messages are not going to be listened to. They are going to be, what's the saying? Oh yes, don't shoot the messenger. But I think Rory Stewart, I genuinely think Rory Stewart has been right on the money, where he has constantly pointed out the problems of the Tory party, why they are having those particular problems, and ultimately, potentially what they might have to do to even become somewhat maybe electable again. But as I've also been emphasizing these past couple of weeks, that ain't going to happen for a long, long time. Because they are going to be interested in anything but their own navel gazing and jumping at shadows for the next decade, if not more. Look at Will Atkinson when we went over his, asking, are we the bad guys? Almost saying, well, if 2020 and all these scandals didn't happen, the Conservative Party would be perfectly fine. So we are going to cover one such individual, because we are off to Spite to have a cover of what a guy who actually writes for Doctor Who, I think, according to this, Gareth Roberts, basically arguing that it's actually Rory Stewart who is responsible for everything that's gone wrong in the Tory party. And just as I said a few moments ago, the people who are coming out telling you the actual truth of what went wrong in the Tory party and what needs to change aren't going to be listened. So if this guy's willing to, shoot the messenger Rory Stewart, the Tory party is going to be done for some decade, if not longer, skirmishes that are going to take place. But, oh boy, let's get into this. But before we do, please do remember to click on the like, the share button. And, of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, where you can buy me a coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and, of course, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. And let's crack on with this. So, as we said, this comes from Spike. The title of Rory Stewart is Everything That's Gone Wrong with the Tories. So, for someone who walks away from things a lot, from the Bullingdon Club, from the Conservative Party, Rory Stewart does a lot of hanging about just outside. Well, yeah, it's one of the things that, people tend to do, especially when it comes to the Conservative Party. Rory Stewart, again, someone I would love to speak to, but I'm probably never going to be able to, but there you go. He is one of those people who generally does have a genuine affection for his party. He wanted the Conservative Party to do well. He wanted to be a good minister within the party, and now sees a party that he doesn't even recognize from what he initially joined. And Rory Stewart would not be alone when you look through the pantheon of things that have happened this as well. You've got Republicans saying the exact same thing about Donald Trump. They don't recognize the Republican Party anymore. It's just something that happens. So, and bear in mind, to what about all the people who left the Labour Party because of Jeremy Corbyn? Sorry, it's because Jeremy Corbyn left the Labour Party, or should we say, booted out of the Labour Party. Or should we say, even left it long before that even happened. So, but anyway, back to this. So the former International Development Secretary, the one-time Tory leadership contender, told the guy this weekend that he wants to keep at least one foot in the door of British politics. Apparently, he is, quote, ready to serve in the next Labour government. Perhaps as some sort of cross-party commission on the NHS or AI. I'd love to do that, he said. Yeah, certainly something we would certainly need to do. Look at the NHS and absolutely look at AI. The stuff you can do with AI is terrifying. There was a Dispatches recently, if you saw it, the one with what they did with oh, I can see his face now, Melchard from Blackadder. I've completely forgotten his name now, but you know who he was. They took his voice, his mannerisms, and did two different videos. One said we were supporting Labour, one said you should vote for the Conservative. And if you didn't know that was AI, that's terrifying to sort of catch. And I'm sort of shocked we have not seen AI play out more in this campaign. Maybe we have. Maybe we haven't experienced it yet. Maybe those haven't been caught yet. Who knows? But it's something that we do really need to look at. But back to this. So Stewart is like one of those people who likes to make a grand announcement on Twitter that they're leaving Twitter, in the mistaken belief that anybody actually gives a toss, that this is now the biggest deal since Miss Otis resigned, that she was unable to lunch today. They always expect the grand chorus of "No, you can't possibly leave us. Your tweets make our existence bearable," and the slough of moral despond. But when the response doesn't come, they just have to pretend to be dragged back to their adoring public against their will. Well, as far as I'm aware, Rory Stewart's never left Twitter. He has constantly said this since day one. Not that he's, left the Conservative Party, but he feels he can't vote for the current incarnation of the Conservative Party because he doesn't feel that it's the Conservative Party that he recognizes anymore. Just as I said at the beginning, how all this civil war is going to break out, they're right there. It's right there about to happen. They're literally all in the trenches, ready to go. And honestly, this time next week, it could be all out war. And it will be fantastic to watch. I'm not going to lie. But anyway, this analogy does start to fall down a bit when you contemplate that Stewart is in fact the co-host of the ineptly titled "The Rest Is Politics," one of the most successful podcasts in the UK. Yeah, a lot of people listen to him, and I put that down to the fact that you've got Rory Stewart, Alistair Campbell, two very different people, different political backgrounds, different political beliefs that can actually have good conversations about what's going on. They don't always agree with each other, nor do they always have guests that they always like or even believe in. I mean, there was recently, who did they have from America? And like Rory Stewart and him really clashed on American foreign policy. I can't remember the guy's name now, but that was a really good episode. So it is popular for a reason, but there you go. So it has over at least 200,000 people regularly tune in, which is a lot in podcast terms, though it's only roughly the population of Bournemouth. But it's still a lot in podcast terms. You might want to say, oh, but it's only the population of Bournemouth. That's a lot in podcast terms. There'd be a lot of people who would be absolutely over the moon if they had 200,000 people regularly tuning in to listen to a podcast. you know, as someone who comes from marketing, those would be amazing numbers. That would be a massive success story. But there you go. So hovering over Stewart in this venture is Alistair Campbell, a man whose record in politics is just, let's say, somewhat mixed, and whose demure is somewhere between the Overlook Hotel and Fawlty Towers. Campbell is really, truly a terrible, terrible man, and Rory is his fluffer. Okay, the role in which makes his regular protestations about his fellow Tories, oh, isn't Boris Johnson just ghastly? Oh, that awful Suella Braverman, simply dreadful, seem rather laughable. But what do they talk about, on the rest is politics? They talk about what Suella Braverman has done and what Boris Johnson has done. It's not just, oh, this person is horrible. It's the fact that Suella Braverman goes to a big conference and then asks the UN to do the job that she is currently in. There's a lot of other reasons you could call Suella Braverman dreadful. Numerous reasons. But there you go. We need to be civil and respectable and sensible, says Rory, all the time, sitting next to someone who regularly tweets about Brexit. Well, are you not in favour of free speech then? Because I agree with Alistair Campbell on just how bad Brexit has been, but if you are, quote, pro free speech, and I'm sure this guy will say he's pro free speech, let him tweet about it. He's more right more often than there's not about that, but there you go. Stewart has made his life's work to do a lot of hanging on about in the Middle East, cosplaying as a Bedouin, hanging about in the Conservative Party, cosplaying as a Conservative. Though he's not cosplaying as a Conservative, he is a Conservative. I would absolutely say Rory Stewart is a Conservative. Yeah, but there you go. Now he's hanging about our politics, now cosplaying as a moderate for the masturbatory delight of about 250,000 sensible people. He is the former Tory that it's okay to light amongst the very tiny but very thinly disproportionately vocal but powerful slice of British society. Gee, this person doesn't sound angry or bitter at all that he has a lot of influence at all, does he? Anyway, he is, quote, nice, you see. Almost, quote, one of us. The Tories attempt to try and appease these awful people. But why is he so awful? What is he saying that he's so awful? You've thrown a lot of stuff against Rory Stewart, but what is he actually saying that is that awful that you thought you would write an entire article about this? I actually haven't heard anything so far yet. Let's see if he actually does. I'm sure he will later on, right? Right? It's not only going to be personal attacks against Rory Stewart, right? Right? Anyway, and, quote, electorally now insignificant proportion of the population who will never, ever vote Conservative anyway, has now brought the party to its impending and very well decisive ruin. Rory Stewart wasn't even in the Conservative Party. He left. And we've seen this accusation thrown at Rory Stewart before, just a couple of weeks ago, in fact. Yeah, Rory Stewart has nothing to do with the current ruination of the current Conservative Party. He wasn't even involved for a long time. He was thrown out by Boris Johnson. He hasn't been in government since 2019. he is not responsible for the downfall of your party. There are plenty of other people you could assign blame to, but certainly not Rory Stewart. He hasn't really been involved. Well, you could say, of course, before that, but for the past couple of years, which have really brought them into ruin, not really, but there you go. So the level of delusion runs high. Stewart, bear in mind, so far everything has just been, I would say, personal attacks. There hasn't been anything really about, Rory Stewart himself. But again, we'll see if he actually gets to this. Anyway, Stewart professes himself now appalled by the modern iteration of the Tories. Oh, we're finally getting somewhere. Well, so say all of us. But only a lunatic thinks. So, okay, like Rory, that the problem with the Conservatives is that they've become dangerously far-right and too populist. So apparently, thinking that is lunatic thinking, when I think everyone could easily say part of the big problem is because of their lurch to the far right, because they want to become more populist, they are scaring and running away from voters in their droves. Liz Truss did the popularist thing when the Tory party voted her in. Lunatic thinking. Honestly, I could end here and just be like, what's the point of continuing? In fact, I'm really tempted, to be honest. But anyway, let's continue. This is the party that has now continued to facilitate mass immigration. They've tried their best, they've tried their best to try and end that in many different ways, but because they are so ideologically attached to this idea, they can't really think about actual, proper, sane, and sensible ideas to do that, because, ideological reasons. Hence why we have constantly seen the doubling down on, immigration. Pour billions into the leaky paper bag that is the NHS. I'd say they've more taken away billions from, the NHS. And bear in mind, if you wanted to actually have a good criticism of Rory Stewart, you could probably say he voted for that. I'm pretty sure if you looked at Rory Stewart's voting record, you might find him voting for things like that. But does he have a go at that? No. And after 14 years, is now only reluctantly brought himself to, quote, the issue of some toothless guidance to schools about the gender cult. It's not that. There are wider implications of what the Tories are going to say here, and that what those, quote, guidance is going to do. I'm sure Rachel, if she watches this video, I'm sure she will tell you about how bad all that guidance in those schools is actually going to be and what the consequences of that could be. That I'm sure she'll comment down below. So, and then of course, are the Tories incompetent? Yes. Stupid? Yes. But is it deranged to accuse them of being populist? I don't think I need to really any further, do I? I don't. Yeah, I mean, there you go. This guy is refusing to admit that the Conservative Party is having a massive swing to the right and is becoming ever more sort of, right-wing populist. Notice he's saying populist, not right-wing populist, but, there you go. I'm sure he doesn't have any reasons why he might be, doing that, but there you go. Honestly, there are legitimate reasons you could say and have a go at Rory Stewart. I'm perfectly sure there are numerous reasons you could have a go at Rory Stewart. Again, like I say, he was part of the sort of Cameron government. You know, yeah, he probably voted for a lot of the Cameron stuff I really disagree with. So, absolutely, he does deserve some blame. But when he comes out and says, actually, these are the current problems of the current Tory party, and yet along comes this guy and says, no, those aren't the problems of the current Tory party. What have I been saying for the past couple of weeks? That the Tories are just going to be completely and absolutely incapable of any serious retrospection. And meanwhile, as I keep on saying, the more MPs they lose, the worse it will be for them, the more infighting it will be. And meanwhile, we'll be able to get on and do a lot of really good progressive stuff. There is a decade of progressive possibilities that lie before us. And guess what? The Tories be nowhere in sight politically. They might be like here, but they can't really do anything to stop it or stymie them or anything like that. So we'll see what happens. But hey, as the saying goes, don't shoot the messenger. Unless you're a Tory who's in denial about the problems within their party, then absolutely shoot the messenger. Because the more you do that, the worse it becomes for your party. And long may that continue. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.